What's up, guys? Kavit here, and today I'm here to give you some of the tips and advices in helping you to get start in this 3D industry because I've seen a lot of people really great artists, but they're not trying to get a you know not having much luck in getting jobs and all the stuff. I consider myself a really lucky guy that just by learning Blender and doing my hard work, I was able to score a job in a really good architect visualization firm. But that is something I didn't wanted to continue, and that is basically because on my personal reason, and also I wanted to start something of my own, maybe like own company or something like that. So which actually turned out in me quitting the job and starting this YouTube channel so that I can help other people too and start something of my own too also. So my first point being here is learning 3D is really it is not that complex thing. Many people think like, yeah, okay, they see Iron Man suits and all those big movie VFX or games like Destiny 2 and all those stuff, and they think like it's a really complex job and we cannot do it. So it's nothing like that. Let me just tell you this the whole thing in point wise. So the first thing I want to start with is like trying all softwares rather than just Blender. I know my channel is surrounded by Blender content. I do time lapses. Most of those are like not most of those, around all of those are like photorealism. So that is kind of my niche. So why I'm trying to tell you to learn other softwares is because today still, at least in India, there are a lot of companies which will only hire you if you are using a 3ds Max or Maya, something like that. So but it is changing. The best example I can give you is of myself, that I got a job without learning 3ds Max and Maya, though I had tried that things before, but I got solely selected on my skill level. So why I'm telling you, because 3ds Max and Maya were the it is where 3D modeling and all those stuff actually started. And I know Blender has its the best things you can call. It is free. It has a lot of things to do. It includes animations, sculpting. Now you have like a small part of Houdini inside it, like geometry nodes, and it has inbuilt compositor. But what industry is looking for is not for perfect people that can make okay, solely based on geometry nodes, or those models which are like you can create just by adding edge loops. People are actually looking for uh, the companies are actually looking for the people who can create models which are really functionable. You might have listened to a lot of people, they are always telling like you should work in quads or you should work in triangles. So behind that thing there's a reason for it. Triangles are really good for optimizing the file size. Quads is really important when it comes to animation, because it helps deforming so well, but your normal polygon n-gons cannot do that. So that is one of the things, and I'm telling you, if you are into modeling stuff, solely you want to become a 3D modeler, you want to maybe make a set library, I really suggest you take a 1 month free trial of 3ds Max, because Blender is going nowhere. It is free, it is going nowhere. But if you're starting with 3D modeling right now, I highly suggest you to go and take a look at 3ds max, because 3ds max has lot of tools, like crazy level of tools, and it will definitely help you, boosting your skills. I also recommend to check 3ds max tutorials and try to just summarize it, and because let me tell you one thing, you might change so many different softwares, but uh, the the basic things, adding edge loops, making geometry perfect, making everything quads, optimizing the topology, those things are never going to change. Even if you change, I don't know how many softwares there are 3D modeling, but even if you change like all of the softwares, these things are never going to change. The tools are definitely going to change, because every set of software has like different tools in it, but these things stays just right. I highly recommend to check Maya. uh, I'll tell you why, because I'm telling you this because when I started my job, I was actually asked to learn Modo. I'm very sure a lot of you people who are starting like right now won't even have an idea of what Modo is. But Modo is, and I'm telling you this seriously, Modo is one of the greatest tool I've learned. And at the first day of my job, when I heard this news, I was kind of like scared, because I took 4 years to perfect Blender, but now how much time I will take to perfect Modo? But to my surprise, I hardly took like 3 days to get to know to Blender, to get to know to Modo, because of the same thing. The things remains the same. The tools change, but once you learn the tools in Blender, it is really easy to get into different tools with sorry, the different tools in the different softwares. So that was my first point. And also, if you are into sculpting, I don't know if ZBrush has a free trial, but if it does, you should definitely check that out too. Even with render engines, I would highly suggest, if you can get a free trial of V-Ray with 3ds max, that is like a best thing you can have, because that is something our industry is currently looking for. And uh, you know uh, that thing on your resume can really boost your portfolio up. Okay, so the second thing I want to focus on is, and many people will disagree with me for the next part I'm about to talk. It is about ignoring unnecessary channels on YouTube. And I'll tell you what I mean by this. So let's take a first example of my channel. This channel, the Ski Samurai channel, is I do create time lapse videos. That is like my main thing, and I also create some videos, to how you can make your renders look good and something like that. That is so. This information, the second thing, tips and advices. This is something I've learned, you know, after watching thousands of videos, and trying this out thousands of times. Some of the things I've learned in my office where I used to work, and the first thing, the time lapse, it is just to showcase my skill. That is it. Because I remember the normal tutorials were not working for me. It's the the tutorials, they say, beginner's guide to Blender tutorial or something like to Blender. Those were really not helping to me, because everyone was explaining the same thing. But I fell in love with watching time lapse video, because they used to just focus on creating the mesh, and I just used to look at it, and I used to get an idea. So I highly recommend you some of the time lapse channels. Just go and watch those channels. Those are, I can tell, it's like 1,000 times better than watching a beginner's guide. So my another thing I want to add to this is, when I said ignoring unnecessary channels, I'm referring to, and I don't want to call out names, but I'm referring to those channels who they make like low poly art or something. Now I'm not saying that low poly art is not the art, but I'm telling you this from the perspective of a guy who used to be working in a studio making real client projects. So low poly art, I do love low poly art, that is like low poly games are like one of my favorite games. But then some channels have mainly focus on creating beautiful stuff rather than taking care of geometry, and I've seen this so many times. They create this low poly art, and then everything is subdivided and all of those things. And you have to really think that when you create this type of thing, you should be able to, every time when you create something in Blender, you should always keep in mind that you should be able to export this in FPX or OBJ, or you should be able to work this file in any different software. So for main reason for this is exporting your textures, baking your textures, exporting your textures, good UV wrapping, and good 3D modeling. So I think you get an idea. One channel I would recommend you is Ma. I don't remember his name. I think it's Mars 3D. So this guy, I've recently, I think 2-3 months back, I started watching this guy, and he made a proper 3D modeling tutorial on 3D Datsun car. That, if guys, I'm telling you, if you are into modeling, you should definitely check this out. It is like a full course but on YouTube. So it's he explains you, and he also explains you in a way. He actually does his modeling in Maya, but he will teach you that in a way that you can also use those tricks in Blender also. So please do check that out. uh, so next thing I want to tell you about is like again, people might disagree with me, is if you're starting out right now in Blender, okay, try not to use add-ons. And that also goes for for material packs too. Try to create everything by yourself. And I know this might you might say you like uh, but no one can create everything on their own. The point for to create everything on your own is that you will get fundamental knowledge behind creating that. If you import a furniture model, like if you are creating a house or a small room or something like that, and you in the beginning only, if you imported a couch or a sofa, uh, definitely your renders will look great, but then you will never have the idea of how that couch was created, right? Or if you're doing some geometry node stuff, try to do it by yourself first, because uh, because then you'll never get to know, or if you put yourself to test, you will never be able to do the same thing which you can do by using add-on. So please do try to do everything, not do everything, but try to learn everything in everything regarding to what you are about to do. And this goes for like 3D modeling. you know Try to create as many as different types of models, if you can. What I mean by that, if you want to get into furniture design, definitely you will be modeling furnitures, but then also try to get into the mechanical design also. And try to model organic things also, because the the thing about modeling organic things is like you always have to play with you know topology being up and down and right and wrong. So that's the best part about organic modeling. I consider myself like a idiot in organic modeling. I cannot do that, so I've shifted my focus on completely on non-organic modeling. So That is one of the things. And uh, so my next point is around this thing only. Is like, try to learn good topology instead of making beautiful art. I'm telling you guys, no one will give you a job just because your model looks good if the topology isn't right. If your model cannot be UV unwrapped properly, no one is going to hire you. I can guarantee on that. So your first step should be learning good topology. There are so many good tutorials for 3ds Max who teach you how to make system, organize your topology flow and edge lines. So please do check those out. And why I'm telling you to check this out, because you can implement the same 3ds Max tutorials in your blender workflow. It is not that different. For last 2 years I've been watching just the tutorials of 3ds Max, and it has only made me good in blender. So that, I know this sounds really silly if you are watching a Max tutorial but you are implementing these things in blender, but these things, the topology things, it doesn't change in any software. Even if you are doing sculpting, it is the same thing. No one is going to buy your sculptures or sculpting models if it's all triangulated and you have like a billion vertices in it. People only going to buy your mesh if it is retopologized properly, it has perfect edge flow, it can be UV unwrapped properly. So these things you have to keep in mind. uh, so my okay, moving on to the next point. Okay, this is like, this should be actually the first point, but my point is like, be specific what you want to become. And this is something I had been struggling a lot. The first thing of which actually got me into this, the whole 3D thing, was definitely the Marvel movies. And I always wanted to make VFX and all those things. So so the very first thing I actually got into was, when I saw the videos, I found out that compositing was one of my favorite things that time, and I eventually got into that. But after trying out all of the other things, I eventually found out that 3D modeling was something that really resonated with me, and till today that I am continuing with that also. I also do like uh, creating textures, but that is really like only like 10% of the time, but like 90% of my time is like just 3D modeling. And it is kind of like meditation to me, so I have stuck with that only for a long time. I do like rendering, I do like compositing, but yeah, still those are like the post production things. But my main focus is like 3D mesh creation. And why I'm telling you to be specific on what you want to focus. This will help you in getting a job. This will definitely help you in getting job, because if you went to a uh, in a company, and if you tell them I can do everything, just give me a job, they are not going to give you a job like that, because they are looking for a specific talent. They need someone who can composite really well, they need someone who can model really well. And different people have different needs. So, and also it helps you in just focusing on one thing and making yourself best at one thing. So the whole point being specific in what you need is to get best great at one thing. Always remember this: you don't want to become good at everything, but you should become great at one thing. That is how you get jobs in industries. At least that is what happened with me. So moving on to my next point, you yeah, that's the same thing. Actually, you don't have to do everything by yourself. And okay, one of the most important things I'll tell you is a good portfolio. And I cannot stress this. Even if you have made something that you feel is kind of like stupid or something like that, you think it don't doesn't deserve a place into your portfolio, try to work on it, make it good, and include that in portfolio. Even if you are doing a small renders, please do include that in portfolio, because when people see your portfolio, they kind of like they sees like what you were few years back and what you have become now, how fast you are improving. So that is how you keep what are okay, let me tell you something, how you can make a good portfolio. So the first thing is, and I'm not going to tell you like first 10 seconds show your best video, I'm not going to tell you that. But what I'm going to tell you, create a portfolio after every 6 months, and just label their tabs. And I'll tell you why. Because if your employer sees that you can make quick changes and learn fast, that is one of the greatest thing you can get, if you are able to show that. And when you're making a portfolio, please also keep in mind to be specific. Don't try to do everything, no all animations and simulations and all those things. Please be a specific guy. uh, Also, I do want to talk about okay, this was not on my list, but I do want to talk about this because uh, this is something which has been happening with me for a long time, and in also very recent days, is this thing called artist blog and something called burnout. So this is a very complicated thing. Actually, it's not very complicated thing, it's very easy. So artist blog is something, you might have come across this. You open Blender and you just stare that cube for like 20 minutes, and you have nothing in mind on what to create. So when you feel something like this, people might have told you just to go on ArtStation, get inspired, and that might work for some people, but it never worked for me. Because once I went to ArtStation, it kinds of like intimidates me, like everyone is doing great stuff but I'm not doing anything. So don't try to do that. What I will suggest you, and my people might say this like this is like very bad advice, but uh, get outside. Just go outside, take a breath, like touch the grass. If you're a gamer, you might know this. Touch some grass, and just observe the world around you. The small things. And try to note down, or really what I'm telling you to just really observe it, and have something in your mind. Try joining paces in your mind, and go home, just lay down, note down, just write down some few ideas, create a mental picture, and try to make that mental picture in Blender. As I'm telling you, you'll be it will definitely be something really hard if you're trying this for first time. But once you get hold of this, I'm telling you, this is a really good practice. uh, I can share my examples. So before getting a job, I used to fill this artist blog, but I also wanted to create a portfolio. So what I used to do, I just used to go on ArtStation and watch other people's videos and all those. And I was like, oh my god, these people are like god level, and I'm like nowhere near them. So like, how I'm going to do this? And luckily my friend just called out, let's go out and have some fun. And I don't know what happened. I tried to chill out and try to forget that thing of like I was doing nothing. But what happened was, I started saying everything in I started seeing uh, everything in a wireframe board, kind of like a car was passing by me, I was just seeing the wireframe of it, in my head only. So that is kind of like stupid and silly. But once you have like too much of stuff done, you'll always try to just what do you say, you automatically starts to imagine that things on your things surrounding you. If you're still if you're watching this video on a phone, just imagine the topology of that phone, how the cameras like a cylinder, and how that cylinder is infused with the rectangular body of the phone. So these things started connecting, and eventually I did the same thing. I created a mental picture of scene, and I did it, and I did that render. And I think yeah, I did edit that picture in my portfolio. And my employer was actually, he actually gave me that job on those renders, which was kind of like burn which was like burning me out, right? So that is one of the advice I would like to give you. Also, burning out, yeah. So burning out is one of the craziest things. You do a lot of stuff, and then all of your energy is just gone. So I would also suggest take some break, watch some good movies, go outside, or just do whatever you want to do which makes you have, like you had fun. Watch a game, or play a game. I don't know, play Valorant, or any other thing. uh, and then you can always take something from that, and you can bring back into this your work. So that's the best part about this. When I was feeling burned out, my friend actually suggested me to play Valorant. And the first thing I noticed when I was playing this Valorant game, and the textures, the way the models were, the way the maps were designed, that geometry. Oh my god, I just fell in love with that game. And I did some renders of my like created my own maps, did my renders. I never showed it to anyone, but I learned a lot from that game. Not just like game wise, but also how talking to the people. I also talked to the people who actually worked on game, and they taught me a lot of things. How your geometry should be, how the textures were created. Every that is how you can get inside of industry. So do follow like channels who review stuff like VFX reacts and all those things. I used to watch Corridor Crew, but I don't now, because I feel like still I don't want to badmouth them. But uh, they are just kind of sitting on the couch and reviewing it. And I don't see their client work right now. So I don't know, I don't know how what to make out of this stuff. The thing I would actually suggest you, these VFX companies, Double Negative, ILM, and all those things. If you're into VFX, please subscribe to their channels on YouTube, because they do release their VFX breakdown, and that is how you can get a uh, good knowledge of what they are actually doing. There are also VFX artists like there are so many artists. I think one guy was Andrew or something like that. He worked on God of War. I used to follow him a long back, but I the reason I stopped watching his videos because he was teaching in 3ds Max, I guess. And I really didn't have had that type of money, to buy Max and all those stuff. And so I eventually stopped watching his videos. and that was kind of, I'll tell you, that was kind of my big mistake, because if I would have stayed put on that thing, I definitely would have improved more than that. And also guys, I just want to tell you guys, don't be bummed out, because there aren't many jobs for Blender right now. I really consider myself as one of the most luckiest person, because uh, getting job in Blender is really hard, because Blender has not become a industry standard right now. But I feel like Blender is going to get that, because I think recently a movie won an Oscar, or I was, or I think was nominated for Oscar, which includes VFX, which were made in Blender. So yeah, there is definitely hope for that thing, guys. Also in Arcways, I'm going to tell you, Blender creates one of the really great renders in Arcways. That is one of those things. Also, you have a uh, piece of Houdini inside a Blender. Many people call it geometry nodes, but for me, before geometry nodes, what I did, I was learning Houdini. I was trying to get to know how Houdini works, and I remember when my free trial was completed, or I think ended, I was kind of like, oh shit, I have done nothing. uh, Within few days geometry nodes will launch. So that was kind of like a blessing for me. uh, so these are so many stuff, you have to cover, but do remember the points what I've told you, and hopefully you'll land a job, or you know or maybe create something out of your own, just like what I'm doing right now. I'll tell you, it has been like, uh, so I started Blender in my college, I think second year. uh, so it has been 6 or 4 years, I guess. It has been like 4 years, and last year I got my job, and this year I planned on quitting the job and starting off my own stuff. So that's it, guys. That was my tips or advice for how you can get a job in 3D or something like that. uh, Also, if someone listening to this is does have a job in with Blender and all those things, or have secured a job, please do comment some tips, so that things that might have I have not learned, or I might miss, people will get to know this. Please do comment on your advices too, so that everyone can benefit from this. And yeah, that's it. Peace.